So this is question 6 from the paper 1 of the mock. So this is a describe an experiment one, and with lots of these, most people find they have problems because they're not really responding appropriately to the instructions. So they are thinking, oh, it's an experimental one, I'll just do this, this, and this. You actually need to follow the instructions given in the question. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to access the marks. So you can write lots and lots of stuff that's not wrong, but you aren't if you're not responding to what the questions actually ask you to do, you're not going to get very, very many marks. So the way this question works is there are 2 marks available for each of these bullet points. So for each bullet point, there are 2 marks available, and there are many different ways of getting each of those 2 marks. But if I have 16 different ways of changing the temperature of the ball, I am not going to gain 16 marks or even 6 marks. I'm only going to get 2 because I can only get a maximum of 2 marks for explaining how I'm going to change the temperature of the ball. It's a rubber ball. There were lots of strange ways of changing the temperature of a rubber ball. You are not able, with something like rubber, you're not going to be able to directly heat it using something like a Bunsen. And generally speaking, in physics, a sensible, and probably in your other sciences, a sensible way of heating something to a reasonable temperature between sort of room temperature and up to maybe 100 degrees is to use a water bath. So we could say change temperature using a water bath. And you can describe a water bath. You can talk about having a beaker, having with water in it. And how would you know what temperature it is? You would measure it using a thermometer. So 2 marks there. You could add lots more additional detail in terms of how sensitive or how good or how well you could do the experiment. But generally speaking, there's 2 marks for saying that. Variables need to be controlled. Well, I'm changing the temperature of the rubber ball. Now, they say rubber ball, so it's the rubber ball. So you're not going to get any marks for talking about keeping the rubber ball the same, because that might seem a bit harsh, but the investigation is about how high this rubber ball bounces. So it should be obvious that you have to keep the rubber ball the same, so you don't get any marks for that. Other things that you would need to control and keep the same: keep the height dropped from the same, and the surface it is dropped onto the same. There are other things that people said that got the mark. One of these 2 marks, that was not throwing it down with a force, keeping that the same. But you can't just say keep the person the same or drop it the same way. You need to be much more specific. And I actually think these 2 points are much more obviously correct. So 2 marks for change the temperature, 2 marks for controlling variables, and then how to obtain high quality data. So a sensible range of temperatures is one way. So use a range of temperatures we can go from 20 to 80 degrees centigrade each 10 degrees. So that's 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. So there are 7 measurements there. That's sufficient. The mark scheme says 5 measurements. That's an arbitrary choice. There's no reason why you couldn't have gone for 10. We could go every 5 degrees. That would be correct as well.